Hi, my name is Wendy and welcome to my YouTube channel. We're going to paint this really easy, very fast little painting today. And I really encourage you to paint along. Please do it. I know that it seems like, oh, I'm too busy to get my paints out, or I really want to paint, but I don't have time, or whatever. Just do it. And or even if you don't feel like it, like I don't feel like painting today. That kind of happened to me today. I was like, oh, I don't really feel like painting, but I know that if I do it, I'll feel better because I've done it enough times. So grab your brushes and let's paint. All right, let's get started with the number 1-inch flat brush. We're gonna get it wet in your water cup. Make sure you have your 1/2-inch flat brush and the small round brush as well. And then we're using the primary colors plus black and white. So we're gonna get the brush wet. And then we're just gonna practice brush strokes by going side to side. Just sweep the brush side to side. Notice I'm using like the full width of the brush. Nice broad strokes. We're gonna do a fun pink, kind of purple little beach scene. Really simple though, really simple. So once I have that, I'm going to start with my pink. And I'm just mixing white and red. And you can make it as dark or as light as you like. I like to start a little lighter, like a little bit of a lighter shade. So mostly white and just a little bit of red. And then I'm going to go towards the center of the canvas and do that side to side. Pull up and down a bit. Then maybe I'll pull some down a little further. Again, maybe add a little more red. So see how I'm like right in the middle, and then leave a little bit of space and then come down. And then we're gonna add some purple. So just a teeny bit of blue at first. And see how it starts to turn purple? If I do a lot of blue though, it's not gonna look like, see how the more blue you look, it's like, ooh, it starts to move away from that bright lavender. So keep it minimal on the blue at first. If you need to, just add more red and white to tone it down and make it really soft. And that's what we're gonna put right above the pink in the middle. And I'm gonna go below too. So just put some here. And then we're gonna make it a little bit of a darker shade of purple. So I'm gonna use some more blue and red and maybe just a little bit less white. So see how that gets a little darker? And then we can pull that in down here just a little bit. And then again, add a little bit of water to your paint if it's not going on smooth. You shouldn't see any empty canvas once you get the area, the desired area covered. And then as I go to the top, I do want it to get even darker. So I'm going to use more blue and red and almost no white. It's going to get nice and dark up there. And then again, I'm going to add a little bit more white as I come down. So I want it to be really dark at the very top, and then it gets gradually lighter as it comes into the really light shades. And then we'll do that at the bottom too. So a little bit darker at the very bottom. And again, dip the brush in the water if you need it to. Sometimes I pre-mix a little bit of water into my paint if I know that it's going to be hot. So you can do that. I didn't do that today, but you can do that if it's easier for you. And then notice how I can just dip the brush in the white and pull it right above so that it's darker at the very bottom, and then it gradually gets lighter as I reach the pink area. Now, another thing to help with the transitions, like say you have a rough transition, clean your brush and then just go into the lighter shade of pink. Which just means I'm going to go in and use my first color again. So white and red. That's it. And then you can go right in between the darker shade of purple here and your pink area, and then just rub down into the purple and then rub up into the pink a little bit. And what this is going to do is just going to create a softer transition between those two colors, just like that. So see how it really nicely blended it out. As I do that though, you might notice you pick up some of that darker shade. You may need to clean your brush a few times as you do this process. If you pick up a lot of the dark color, like much more than you feel like you can control. But see, I can go back to this other pink area and I can smooth the brush strokes out by pulling up with the pink. And then pulling just in any little space where you want to soften the colors. Notice just rubbing the brush back and forth. It's very Bob Ross. Like he would always lay down his colors and then come in with a clean, dry brush and rub it out. It's a little harder to do that with acrylics though, because your acrylics dry really fast. So what I find helpful to help with the blending is to use the lighter color, nice and wet, come in with that wet paint and rub it into the other paint to help blend it out. So now that we have that, we can add some maybe like a little sun and some clouds. With the sun, I'm just going to use a little bit of white on my finger and come right into this pink space right here and put a little dot. And that way I can be like, okay, that's where my sun is going to go. And I kind of want to blur it out. So I'm just going to rub and blur it out just a bit. And then you can always come in and add a little bit more right in the center to make it look a little bit more bright in the middle. And then it kind of fades out as you go out from the space. So it almost looks like glowing. That's kind of fun to do. And then you can add some clouds with maybe like blue or like a blue shade of purple. So I can have mostly blue with a little bit of red. And then I can come in and just wiggle this medium square brush, just wiggle the brush and taper the line to create a cloud. So you can just come and wiggle and kind of taper it out. So maybe I create a few of these, again, blue with a little bit of red. They're kind of dark clouds towards the top here, but that could look really pretty. And you can even just make like a streak. So sometimes your clouds don't need to be like puffy. They could just be little horizontal lines. So play around with adding some different shapes, or you can leave the clouds out. You could just have that faded background. No worries. Do whatever feels fun for you. But like I said, I'm not going to make it too complicated. And then we want to add some silhouette type stuff in here. So I'm going to go in with the blue and black. So I'm not even cleaning my brush. I'm still using the medium square brush. So your 1/2 inch flat or something like that. And I'm just going to go maybe like to where this like purple is, maybe about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom or so. And then just make a horizontal line. And this, I'm going to put some little land here. So I'm going to make some jagged brush strokes at the top. And then color it in. And then you can put some little horizontal brush strokes underneath to put maybe a little bit of a shadow or reflection. And then you can put your palm trees. So the palm trees can just sit on that little piece of land. And maybe I can have one come up like right here. Maybe I have a little one right here. So you're making vertical lines wherever you want to see a palm tree. And they don't have to be straight or anything. And then you can pull out, like usually for a palm tree, I'll do a T. So turn it into a T. Just like that. No big deal. And then make an arrow pointing up. And then make a V at the top. So that's your minimum. And then you can add some more to it. Once you have that, you're going to pull out a little bit thicker in the middle and then thinner at the tip of the shape for your palm tree. So you want it to, it's like a feather. You want it to have longer, and I'm just using the corner of the brush to pull out little silhouette. And it can be really loose. And then you can have extra too. Like say you want to have some longer ones, or you want to get a couple extra palm fronds in there. You can do that. So I like to just say that that base of like 6 lines, the V, the T, and the arrow pointing up is just like a base to start with. Doesn't have to be exactly like that, but it's good for balance and just for beginner doing the palm tree. But like I said, you can make it however you want. Most stuff is very flexible. And just zone out on, I love doing palm fronds. When I first started teaching paint night or like paint and sip events, I was just like constantly, the lady who was scheduling the paintings it was like always palm trees, palm trees, palm trees. And you know what? I had so much fun with it. I never really painted so many palm trees just on my own. Like, it's not really something I always wanted to paint on my own, but teaching it was fun. And then I ended up really liking it because it's kind of mesmerizing. And then you can reflect. So I can pull that line down, kind of try to create like a mirror of that. And then you can put some like dark to represent the palm tree itself in the water. So easy, so fun. And then you can go ahead and add some like highlights to the water. Now you can use the small brush to come in and maybe touch up the sun a little bit, just by adding a little bit more to it. And then you want to add some horizontal lines. So right underneath the land, you're just going to gently drag the brush horizontally. And then just do a few. You want to reflect the sun a little bit. So make sure you put a little extra like right under that space where the sun is. But it doesn't have to be too many. And then you can just let it go.